I think this is the first time I am doing a story time on this channel. I'm not sure. Okay, no, I have one story time of how I met my husband. Yeah, that's about it. This is the second time I'm doing a story time on this channel. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Agos. Just in case you're seeing me for the first time, you're welcome to my channel. I'm trying to put my phone in silence. So welcome back to my channel. Today is a story time, and I just felt like talking about this and doing this story time because as I'm getting towards the end of my pregnancy, there are just so many emotions. First of all is gratitude. Like, I am just super grateful. All right, so let's begin. I always wanted to have a small family. I personally wanted at some point to have 2 kids. My husband wanted to have 4, and then we came to the agreement that, okay, you know what, we're going to have 3 children. I never wanted to have like more than 3 children, and I've always wanted to space them. I wanted it to be like the first child, the next one will come 3 years later, the next one will come 3 years later, and so on. And so when I had my daughter in 2016, the plan was to have another child at least in 2019 or even 2020. But somehow I was pregnant in 2018. That's not because I was not doing family planning. Okay, well, I was doing family planning, but I was doing the natural method, which obviously failed me. So in 2018, I found out I was pregnant. Like, I knew I was pregnant, of course I missed my period and everything. And then I wanted to just go to the hospital and confirm. So I went to the hospital, they did the blood work, and yes, they confirmed the pregnancy. I was pregnant. And they were like, okay, let's go in for an ultrasound just to be sure that everything is fine. And yeah, I went in for the ultrasound. My husband was not even around then. I hadn't even told him. So I went in for the ultrasound, and they were like, hold on, wait a minute. There are 2 babies in here. I was just like, wow, are you serious? My grandmom, my dad's mom actually had twins. And so if twins were to like run in family, then yeah, it runs in my family, or there was someone that had twins in my family. So I was just like, initially, honestly, my first reaction was, are you serious? I'm going to have 4 kids. Because I never really wanted to have like so many children, So, but at the same time, I was so excited. Like, do you know what it is to have twins? Mama and Chima. I was really excited. I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? My husband was not around then. So I think it was later in the day that I called him and I told him. And he was like, wow, are you, like, we were all very excited. I called my mom, called everybody, And then everything was fine. Everything was really fine up until like 9 weeks. I started spotting. So with the spotting, it wasn't really heavy. It was just mostly when I wiped. And sorry if this is TMI for you, but yeah, so I didn't really bother. So like few days after the spotting started, I had to just go in just to let them know and to be sure that everything was fine. They did another ultrasound and they were like, everything is fine. With pregnancies, spotting is normal, just take things easy. They even recommended bed rest and stuff, which I didn't really take because I just felt I'm just going to take things easy. And so I was still going to work and everything, and the spotting never stopped. It just continued. I think it stopped for like 1 day or 2 days, and then it's just but for most of the time I was spotting. Okay, I was almost 10 weeks at that time. The spotting now got heavier. I went back to the hospital and another ultrasound was done, and they found out that I was losing one of the babies. So, which was really sad. Like, I just found that I was having twins, and the next thing I'm losing one of it. But then at the same time, of course, one baby was still there, and I was still grateful. And I was just like very silly mentality. I was just like, okay, at least we're still going to have our 3 children, which is still fine. And so yeah, I was advised. I was then placed on bed rest, like about 5 days bed rest, which I did, and I wouldn't say it completely went away, but I would wipe and still wipe something, but then it really reduced. And still, I was still on the kind bed rest. After a while, I started spotting again. It was just on and off. But I would always go back to the hospital and they will always check and be sure that everything was fine. So everything was fine with the final baby, with the baby that was left behind, until about 13 weeks. About 13 to 14 weeks, I went in for an ultrasound and they said that there was no heartbeat anymore, and that, you know, of course the sac wasn't looking normal anymore. It was a miscarriage. That was really devastating. That was really devastating for me, because I mean, here I am coming from pregnant with twins to pregnant with one baby to, you know, losing that one. It was just crazy. And to think that I've never really talked about, like, it just feels like that was a part of my life, that it just happened and it happened and it just happened. Like, I don't really talk about it anymore. Up until now, I don't really talk about it anymore. But yeah, it was really devastating. And so it was a miscarriage, which means that the pregnancy was no longer viable, but there were still products of conception in there. So they needed to, you know, induce me to push out everything. And so I was induced. You know, of course, it feels like labor. You're having cramps, contractions, clinical, all those things, and things were coming out and everything. It was really, really painful, and it was really, really sad. Talking about it, I remember that night. Then we're in my parents-in-law's house. I remember that night how I was just like crying and just, you know, bidding those children goodbye. I've not really talked about this thing like this, and talking about it now, I'm just like, hey, this is crazy. I remember how I was just, you know, telling them goodbye. What's wrong with me? I did not think that talking about this thing would make me cry. But I remember telling them goodbye, how, you know. Okay, so yeah, I remember telling them goodbye, how I would have loved to meet them. You know, just saying a lot of things that night. And yeah, so I had a lot of contraction, a lot of, you know, things coming out. Sorry if this is TMI once again. But yeah, I had that, and I had a lot of things come out, you know, the products of the conception, whatever that was left. And so by the following morning, I went back to the hospital just to be sure that everything had been flushed away. But fortunately or unfortunately for me, there was still stuff left in there. And so they decided to, you know, wheel me into the theater for a D&C. And of course, this is my first time of experiencing all these things. I have never had a miscarriage before now. I've never had to be induced to, you know, push out whatever. I've never done a D&C. So they wheeled me into the theater for a D&C, and that was my first ever D&C. And yeah, it wasn't, I wasn't awake. Of course, I don't know if people actually stay awake for D&C, but I just saw that people know me already. I cannot even begin to endure pain. So I was put to sleep, and by the time I woke up, they had already done everything. And I went home that evening, and that was it. I just moved on with my life. I was working then in Diamond Bank, and so like I went back to my busy schedule, just continued working. Everybody that knew that I was pregnant at the time, because for me, I don't usually like hide my pregnancy or anything. I'm always very excited. Like if you're sitting near me in the hospital and I get the news, you are definitely going to hear the news immediately. You know, so everybody in my workplace already knew I was pregnant. Some already knew that I was pregnant with twins and everything. But I went back to work. I didn't tell anybody anything. I just didn't talk about anything. I just went back straight to work. It was up until like months later, people were now asking like, Agos, what's up? And I had to tell them like, okay, you know what, I lost the babies and everything. And ever since then, I just actually moved on. I remember my mom and my mom-in-law also like being very supportive. And my mom-in-law would always tell me to come out, you know, she would come and pick me, we'll go for weddings, go for events. But even while we were there, she would always tell people, even those that didn't, I can't forget those moments or that time. I remember her like telling people that she was just pregnant with, like, even though I had really lost the pregnancy, the excitement was still there for them. Even my mom as well. They will always say, she was pregnant with twins, so she just you know how mothers can be. And yeah, but somehow that also helped me to like push forward and move ahead. And so I moved on. That was in 2018. So this was 2018 May. Yeah, 2018 May. And then yeah, so that was just it. I just moved on with my life and nothing much again. I didn't talk about it again. But you know how this kind of thing like is when you lose a pregnancy, like I don't know how to put it, like they always say try and wait, but somehow there was this urge for me to like replace what I lost. So I was really like, you know what, let me get pregnant, even though I had wanted it to be like 3 years gap. I was like, let me just get pregnant immediately. Let me replace these babies that I lost. And so around August, because they would always say give yourself 3 to 6 months and blah blah blah. I did not want to wait till 6 months. 3 months was enough. And so around August, September, I was like, okay, you know what, let's start trying for another baby. And that's what we started doing. And by the following month, yeah, this was September now, and by October I was pregnant again. That is the story of when I was pregnant with twins. I never really talk about these things, even though I remember the exact date. I remember the day I went in for surgery. I went in for surgery May 27th. It was on a Children's Day. I cannot forget it. That was the day I went in for the surgery, like, you know, the D&C, and officially I wasn't pregnant anymore. And somehow I always just remember that day as a day of, you know, the day I said my fine. I don't know how to explain this, but I just feel like I don't talk about, I don't know if I should talk about it a lot, but it's just a day that I cannot, like every May 27th I'm always like, okay, yes, so this was the day this happened and everything. I would have really loved to be a twin mom. I would have really loved that, but I guess God did not want me to, you know, experience. I mean, I experienced being pregnant with twins, but being parents to twins was probably something God did not plan for me. So yeah, that is the story of how I was pregnant with twins. This video actually is going to be a two-part video. So this is the first part of the video. The second part of the video is what happened afterwards, how the twins, how being pregnant with twins actually changed my life forever, what happened afterwards and all that, just because I don't want this video to be getting so long. So after this one, you may want to go and watch the second part of the video. Yeah, that is where I explain my life afterwards, how that's changed my life, how that's, you know, led me to a different journey altogether. So yeah, if you enjoyed this story time, do give this video a thumbs up. I know that it's just a very short video, a very short story time, but I just wanted to just say this and just like make this video because I don't really talk about, I don't really talk about that period. I feel I didn't really allow myself to be immersed in the whole situation at the time, because once I left that day, I was discharged. The next day I went straight to work, and since that time till now I've not really sat down to actually like think, I don't know how to explain, like think it through. So yeah, I just felt I should talk about it and make a video about it. So that's the end of my video. Go and watch the second part of the video. That is where I now talk about how I started a different journey altogether after this whole experience. I'll see you guys in that video. Okay.